Well, welcome to the journey. My name is Kevin Polkey, and I am the host of the journey. And today we have a return guest, Nick Votava from Rockford Barbell. I think, if I'm counting correctly, this is the third time that you guys that you have been on the journey. And well, welcome, Nick.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be back.
And since the last time you were on, you have a new addition to the family. So yeah, tell us a little bit. Actually, maybe two new additions because uh, I think something happened in last summer, and then also now.
Yeah, my wife and I we recently welcomed a new baby. So we're very excited about that. Yeah, a little girl born in April. So yeah, very excited. Some different changes, not only to Rockford Barbell, but to us personally as well.
Yeah, and then and her name is
Her name's Murray. So
Marie.
my wife is Mary, and then her name is Murray.
Nice, perfect. And so she is now coming up on two months old, right?
Yep, almost 2 months.
Okay. Yeah, they are a lot of fun. Over the weekend, my we had a family weekend this past weekend. My nephew's son turned two, which is crazy to believe that, feels like he was just born. And then their daughter, 4 years old, was in a dance recital over the weekend with Evolve Dance Company, and so we got to that's what our Saturday and Sunday was taken up with. So that was it was good.
Yeah, we're big into movement at Rockford Barbell. We joke our daughter is the same. She's constantly wanting to be bounced or carried in this phase of life. So yeah, trying to get her some movement in and where we can.
So, so, just for new guest, Nick, why don't you tell us just a little bit about Rockford Barbell, how long it's been in existence, your partner's name, obviously, and what's the overall mission?
Sure. So, Rockford Barbell, we're a nonprofit. We're located here in Rockford. Started in 2019. We have the mission to improve the social emotional skills of youth through what we call mindful movement and our trauma-informed practices. So we run after-school programs by and large for kids 10 through 18. All of our programming is free. And we have a few different programs. So we have a weightlifting program. We have a yoga program. Our yoga program is on pause this summer due to my wife having a baby. She teaches that class, and then this summer we're introducing a new program called Movement in Nature. So all of these programs, like I said before, align with our mission of just using movement to help kids, connect with other people, regulate their emotions, and just overall just improve their well-being.
So if a parent was interested in having their youngster, their student, what's the age again? And then what would they expect? Kind of walk us through what's the age group that you're targeting, and then what would they have? What would the parents expect? What would the student expect?
Sure. So we work with kids 10 through 18. So starting fourth, fifth grade, all the way through the end of schooling. Um, what to expect? I mean, our programs are a little bit different depending on which program they're involved in, but they all kind of incorporate the same components. So we're heavy on our routines. We do a lot of routines as part of our trauma informed practices, but kids go through some routines they do, at the beginning of class and throughout our programs. There's always a movement component. So in our weightlifting program, kids are learning weightlifting movements while working with other people. So they're always working with partners. We're moving in a way to promote mindfulness. So within yoga, obviously that is a big focus in is mindfulness or being in the present moment. But the type of lifting that we do, we're constantly having our kids reflect on how is that feeling. Our is our technique moving in a consistent way. Just trying to help kids move in a more mindful way.
Gotcha. Okay. And so as you know, as and I know we've talked about this before, but I don't know if our listeners are aware of it. But throughout the past year and a half, specifically, year and a half, 2 years, you guys also worked in the schools. And tell us a little bit about the school-based program and what was different, what was the same, and what was beneficial about that.
Sure. So this year we worked in a handful of schools, and basically taking what we've learned from our after school model and applying it in schools directly. So worked over at Lincoln Middle School as well as Constance Lane and a school in the Harlem district called Rock Cut. But taking groups of kids and providing this social emotional learning intervention using parts of our weightlifting program. So. We always start with a reflection right at the beginning of our class. So students would reflect on kind of how their day is going. We ask them, tell us about your mood, tell us about how much energy you have, how does your body feel physically. This is just like a little check-in that they do. It takes, just a few minutes. And then we have this conversation of, these components can impact us, our ability to work with other people and work on, the other learning that we're trying to do. So they do that reflection, and then there's always like the movement portion. So they're learning different movements, doing this kind of engaging activity of weightlifting, working with partners, helping each other change weights, add up weights, helping each other, reflect on their technique. And then typically at the end of the day or the end of the week, we do some sort of reflection. Just to kind of wrap things up to tie back to what we were working on for the week.
Gotcha. And what did you notice as one of the benefits of taking what you guys have coined the mobile Rockford Barbell and bringing Rockford Barbell to, in this case, the schools? What were some of the benefits of doing it that way versus coming in the traditional of coming to the actual site?
Yeah, I mean, kids are in school during the day, so it just provides a great space to be able to work with more kids. For us, like we see kids after school, but we know that social emotional learning needs to happen all day, every day, for years and years. So we just think that this is an engaging way to do it. Our schools are providing social emotional learning in their classes, but just having something different coming into the school and being able to provide this is a way for us to see more kids. Some kids, who aren't able to make it to our after school programs are able to get this program, during the school day. Um, Also, it's a way for kids to kind of get a taste of what we do, and then they can always join our after school programs as well. So, as kind of an outreach method, they get to know us, they get to know kind of how we go about learning these things, and then they if they have interest, they can continue on with us in the after school setting.
Sure. Yeah. And I remember us talking about at different times is it's really about planting those seeds about, what it could be, what it could be like, and if they want to take that next step of more of a structured, not that it wasn't structured, but a more they get more time if they come to the after school program than when you guys are there in the schools.
Absolutely. So yeah, we were doing these programs, 30 minutes to 45 to an hour. But we all know like this is a continuation. Like we need to work on these things all the time. So, just because you worked at it in school, you could go work on these skills, after school. There's different relationships to work on, different people to meet. We can always be working on these things as well.
So, so, and now just kind of before we jump into what your new program is for this summer, um, that idea in, last month with mental health awareness month being in May, and being able to, this idea of, most people are cognizant of the idea of, you don't. you can get a gym membership, but if you're not going on a regular basis, you're not going to benefit from the money you spent on the membership, right? And if you only go once a month, you're going to have less benefit than if you were going, 3 to 4 times a week. And this idea of knowing, as you put it, that we need to continually work at developing these physical skills, but maybe talk a little bit about continually developing the social emotional skills as well.
Yeah, so I for a long time I thought of like social emotional skills as just kind of a buzzword or just not really truly understanding kind of what that meant. When I say social and emotional, like we're talking about, social being your relationship with others, right? So all of our classes involve, working on how do I communicate with other people who are different than me or similar to me. And when we say emotional skills, that's where movement comes in as far as this like self-regulation piece. So all of our movements that we use are repetitive rhythmic movements. So if you're doing a squat, you're going up, down, up, down. There's a rhythm to what we're doing. Even like we work and then we rest. We work and then we rest. This kind of rhythm we want kids to get into with their partners. It's really like what we're promoting within our programs. We always tell kids like these movements, weightlifting, it may or may not be your thing, but there's other rhythms and patterns you can find with movement that is just very beneficial for regulation. And when I talk about regulation, we're regulating our minds, right? Our thinking and our emotions, but also regulating our bodies. When we're in our a yoga practice, we take deep breaths, right? We breathe in, we breathe out. We breathe in, we breathe out, right? Helps calm our minds, calm our bodies at the same time. So when we say social and emotional, like we're talking about how do we work on our relationships? How do we regulate ourselves, so that we can improve our mental health. We just had a presentation kind of develop this idea a little bit, but when you tell somebody to work on their mental health, I think that can be a little intimidating or like where do I start or how do I do that?
Or even what
I
I mean.
think yeah, go ahead.
No, no, even like what does that mean to work on your mental health, right?
Right, right. And then when you tell that to a kid, I think it becomes even more confusing for them, So like how do we simplify it? So we say social emotional skills, and we have five that we define through the Castle standards, as just a way to kind of break that down, right? We're working on our relationship skills. We're working on our self-awareness. We're working on our ability to manage ourselves. I think when you can break it down like that, you can kind of see where you're doing well or maybe where you need some improvement. And so using those terms I think it's just a more digestible way for people to really like figure out what they need to do or where they need to go in terms of improving their mental health or maintaining their mental health.
Yeah, no, I think, I think the idea of, and I think it's gonna, it's still gonna it'll take time for people to kind of grasp this idea that uh it's an ongoing development, right? It's not, yes, there, just like we've talked about many times, is that, you know, the majority of times that people go and seek out a counselor is because they're in some kind of, discomfort, or they're struggling with something, and so they have symptoms, and really, though, that's what got their attention to know that they need to do different. But how do we work at this and change our perspective of that it is not, that we don't have to wait for something to go wrong before we start taking care of our physical and mental and emotional and spiritual health, and so that by the time you start having physical symptoms of something that's wrong, you probably there's been a significant deterioration of something by that point. And so I think similar parallel with that is with our social emotional.
Absolutely. I think a lot of times people seek counseling for problems they're experiencing within relationships or problems they're experiencing with emotions or their thinking. right? And I can, through my lens of this kind of social emotional skills, I can say, well, what's causing those problems with those relationships? Maybe it is a regulation piece. Maybe you're getting angry or you're anxious, with relationships. So how do we manage that so that, your relationship skills can improve? But I think yeah, there's just a lot of ways that we can kind of go about working with mental health and social emotional skills. What I find is like movement, especially for children, is just like it's just an engaging way to do it. I think it's a different way. I think a lot of these kids, a lot of kids, a lot of people in general, you tell them that they need to go work on their mental health or their social emotional skills, and it can be a struggle. They maybe they've done that or had a bad experience. I think like having some alternative approaches to how we do these things can be helpful.
Well, and I know as we've talked over the years about what you and Elliot bring to the table and your staff bring to the table is it's not only a different way of working on physically and social emotionally development, but it's also about how to have fun in the midst of it. Because if we're enjoying the experience, if we're having fun, then it's something that we're going to look forward to doing and participating in versus avoidance, right? And then you get benefits or results, which is also fun, right? I think it's a combination of those things. So I want to kind of switch gears just a little bit to kind of set up this new program that you guys have developed for the summer. There's a gentleman named Jonathan Haidt who he's written a couple different stuff, but one of his more recent books that have kind of really like brought him to the forefront of people's minds is uh, Jonathan Haidt's book on the anxious generation, and he's talking about the impact of the digital age, the impact of specifically smartphones and tablets where they have these along with social media and the media aspect of it and how that has had a huge impact or influence um, on our well people of all ages, but specifically our younger generation. Yeah, what are your thoughts regarding that? And yeah, what is your thought? And what kind of impact have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, technology has obviously impacted us all. Kids, are younger and younger are on devices, and I think, I always think of like what we put our time into, impacts what we don't have time for. So, if we're spending all of our time doing one thing, maybe we're spending less time doing the other. So we know kids are and people in general are communicating more online, but maybe they're missing, this connection in real life. So we see that, we see kids, we see adults that are more disconnected, and needing ways to connect. I think, being involved in programming like ours gives an activity, gives a space for people to connect. Um, for me personally, like being in a gym, a smaller gyms where people are engaged with each other, is super important, and it's something that I wanted to recreate for kids. Within our space, we have kids that ask us, can I work by myself? And we hear you. We understand today might have been a long day, but it's understanding that we're here to connect with each other. So we do have kids work together. We do mixed up partnerships and make sure that everyone has a partner. Because that's what we're working on. We can't work by ourselves, and work on relationships at the same time. Similarly, we play music in our space, but we don't allow for like personal headphones or cell phone use while program is ongoing, just because it does take away from that person-to-person connection. So I think, just knowing that up front, just like knowing the intention of what we're trying to do, it is different than a traditional gym or somewhere where people are moving and working out, but they may be on their device or with their headphones in and not always connecting, face to face.
Yeah, and I think, I think setting that expectation, right? And saying this is what we're doing and this is our why behind it. And then the side benefits are those things that, maybe this is one of those few opportunities that, that they have throughout their day that they don't have the distraction of a device, right? I saw that just recently the governor of Illinois is proposing uh, a statute or a law that says that there won't be any use of cell phones in the schools and being able to pass that if they're able to pass that and then the implementation of that is going to be an interesting but ironically, the people that I've talked to, specifically students that I've talked to regarding that and the districts that have implemented that, they are grateful. They're glad they don't have to have their phones or have, now for them to choose to not use their phone at school is a lot harder than being told they can't use their phone at school. And so it almost makes that, the choice for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard. Like, even if you do want to connect, if everyone else is on their device or disconnected, it's hard as you, the one that wants to connect with those others that are disconnected. So I think like having spaces where, where this is the norm or like where we are going to be intentional with how we interact, I think is just becoming more and more important, of having space to where everyone is off devices and we're able to, yeah, connect face to face. I think that helps everyone.
Yeah. And kind of going back to Haight's research on that he shares in the Anxious Generation, that he talks about how do we get back into like balancing out the exposure to screen time. And one of the things he does talk about is movement, about learning tools for emotional regulation to expand the attention span, aspect of it. And then he also talks about this idea. So everything you do, you're doing your traditional programming at Barbell is very much aligns with the research. But then he also talks about this idea of being out in nature, and being out in nature individually, but also being out in nature in groups. And so, yeah, tell us a little bit about this new program you guys are starting this summer and how you've already had some success with the signups.
Yeah, so yeah, we're very excited. We're starting a new program that we're calling Movement in Nature. It's very much in line with our mission and our other programs that we've offered in the past. But basically, the concept is working with the same age group, 10 through 18. We're going to be doing this on Tuesdays for a 2 hour block, but going out to various nature areas and doing some of this programming. So there's a lot of opportunities for nature in our area, just a lot of state parks and forest preserves. But taking kids out there, being intentional with what we're doing out there. So, we have 18 kids sign up for our program. We're going to be going to some places such as Rock Cut, Severson Dells, Blackhawk Springs, Seward Bluffs. I think we're going to Atwood and Aldine as well. So yeah, just showing some kids or showing our kids all these different places that are accessible to them, that are free that they can go into, and then doing some of our intentional programming. So I know some of what we're going to do is some components of our yoga program. So within our yoga program, we do a lot of like what we call breath awareness. So it's just intentional breathing exercises. So stepping off the bus, stepping into nature, doing some deep breaths just to kind of settle into what we're going to do. We'll have some different like small group work and different activities for kids to engage with each other. So it could be something like a scavenger hunt or just some conversation back and forth on a specific topic. Some ways for the kids to connect, maybe with a partner or maybe with the whole group. There's obviously going to be a movement component to it. So we're going to be taking some walks, some hikes, and then we're talking about how do we relax out in nature as well. I think nature provides us a great opportunity to disconnect and to embrace what it offers, which can be a slower pace. So doing some guided meditations or just sitting and reflecting is definitely going to be some opportunities for that as well.
Well, it sounds super exciting. And like I said, it very much aligns with the research regarding, what things can we implement into our lives and our students' lives to help offset the imbalance a lot of times it happens with screen time. And I know that isn't necessarily what the intent was. I think that's a side benefit of what, the things that you guys are doing, but it definitely aligns with what the research shows with what is that this particular generation is being exposed to. So I think it's a great thing that you guys are doing. I know it's a natural extension or expression of you and Mary and Elliot that of what you guys are doing, everything from the weightlifting to the yoga and now with the nature piece is all kind of like your guys' personal lifestyle and how you guys do life as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to be authentic, and to be genuine and true to who we are. I think, when you're working with kids, especially, just showing them, what's worked for us. I think, like these are some things that are, yeah, are personal to us, but that we see tremendous benefit for. Rockford Barbell was founded by educators and mental health professionals, and we're just always trying to implement, the best practices of both. Just trying to combine those things and just show kids engaging ways to work on these things that are not always easy. I think I wanted to mention this. Like we talk about this kind of like lifelong need to work on these things. The skills you have, the social skills you have as a 10-year-old are not the same as the social skills you have as a 16-year-old or a young adult. There's this constant need to work on these things, and the same is true for like our ability to regulate ourselves. How we managed ourselves as 10-year-olds looks different than how we manage ourselves as young adults. So just being able to practice these things continuously, doing them in ways that are engaging. And I think for a lot of kids, like just having different opportunities, like not all kids know about all these places that we're going to be going to this summer, or know how to use weights and barbells, or have done yoga practices. So just finding some new things to do. I think we have a lot of information at our fingertips with the internet, but just showing them how to do these things, person to person, I think there's still a need for it.
Yeah. Well, and I think, again, going back to, what you guys are offering, you're offering an in-person experience through movement and an opportunity for them to uh, wrestle with, the process of connecting, right? And this idea. And so, to be able to some of the things that they're going to be exposed to that they most likely wouldn't have been exposed to, and definitely not in the same way that you guys are doing now through the movement through nature aspect of it. I think it's just an awesome, natural, awesome thing that you guys are doing for what Rockford Barbell is doing. So I think, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and I'll look forward to hearing how it goes, and then after the program's over, what you guys learned about it, and what people thought.
Yep, we're very excited. So yeah, thanks for letting us share a little bit about it. And yeah, we're super excited to see how it goes this summer.
And as of right now, the program has been filled. I know that you said there was some limitation because of transportation aspect of it, meaning you guys are using a van and a SUV to bring the students with you, but that meant that it was capped at a certain amount, and so which is a good thing. That's an awesome thing. But if someone wanted to learn more about Rockford Barbell, what are a couple different ways that for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. We are capped. We are just trying to be strategic about filling spots though. So, we would put somebody on a wait list if they want to join our wait list. And if someone ever misses a week, we might be able to fill somebody in. But that being said, more information on us can be found on our website, rockfordbarbell.org. All of our contact information is there. So if you have any questions or just any general information, you can find us there. But yeah, give us a call, send us an email, look on our website. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Nick, any last things that you'd want to share with any of the listeners?
Just thanks for having me today. I think, this stuff is very important for our community, and just being able to have a place to talk about it is has been really great. We're very passionate about this stuff. It's affected us personally, and we want all kids to grow up in our community with opportunities. And so we're very fortunate to be able to do this work and help kids connect with each other and with us. And I think I think one thing I was going to mention, I think like some success we see from our programs. We always love to hear, kids start our programs and they're not very connected with their other communities, their school community, or with, even at home. We have a number of kids that go through our programs, and they're then able to join, a sports team or go out for a school play. And I just think that like that comfortability, them gaining some of these skills, these social skills, these awareness skills, and then being able to extend that to further communities is what it's all about. So, we all start somewhere, and I think yeah, just helping kids, take those first couple steps, and then being able to go out into their broader communities is just super important.
Yeah, no, I think there was just some great points and for individuals that may not have you know naturally gravitated towards sports teams or different programming, this is a great way to get introduced to it with an added caveat of either the nature or of yoga or the social emotional piece, and then that may very well open up a doorway for them to get involved in their home school or in other places in the community. So I think you guys are doing a great job, and and it's just a different way to be able to provide services for our youth. So great job. So for anybody that's listening that thinks that this may be something that they would like to, introduce or get more information for their children or for grandchildren or somebody they may know, definitely reach out to check out rockfordbarbell.org and then email Nick or Elliot to get more information. Like always, I appreciate you being here and sharing this information and sharing Nick and Barbell's story, and look forward to being with you next week.